As time goes on, I start seeing the more and more popular trend of videos in my feed, as well as even in the real world that, why does Generation Z not like working? I've heard all the excuses from the stars and moon above, from either boomers to millennials or Gen Ys, to even Gen X's, of people coming up with all these excuses that Gen Z is viewed as lazy, unwilling, insolent. We don't care about anything. We're putting in the bare minimum effort in everything. We just don't care. We're not looking to further and grow society or ourselves. We just want to sit around, smoke pot, use our vape pens, drink, do stupid things, and just not care at all. And, I do think that there are people in this boat, but I think the majority of Gen Z people like myself, and I'm sure you watching this video, it's not really the case. Like, a lot of us don't want to partake in those activities. We're just kind of clumped in with the loud minority, so to speak. And then you got just TikTok not helping because, you got these TikTok trends I've heard of bare minimum Mondays to quiet quitting, which, I can see why they exist, but it's not helping the issue here. And, you got other trends that I don't even want to bother remembering because I don't use TikTok. And quite honestly, I don't care about TikTok. TikTok, I think, is just an app that's just completely a mess and has caused more issues and trouble than it's actually worth. But that's a video topic for another time. I'm thinking about talking with social media. But I think when it comes to us, at least for me, when I just look around why these sort of stereotypes are being brought up, you just got to look at like everything around you and see that there is really not much of a future to build up to. And it doesn't help when wages aren't keeping up with inflation and the cost of living is just getting out of control in some states. Since I'm in America right now, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but I think it's somewhat the same from what I'm seeing videos and people talking about it in different countries. Like it's pretty clear that we're not getting paid enough and we can't keep up with the growing inflation and problems that come from these, increases in inflation and cost of living. That's just making it harder and harder to live. It's why we're not even having kids or thinking about having a family. Again, thinking of the future because it's too expensive to have those futures when we're literally living day in and day out, day by day, trying to just live the best life that we can. And even dating is becoming expensive too. But we've talked about that before on this channel. But you can see why it leads to people just doing the bare minimum at the very least, or just not caring about wanting to go up the corporate chain or ladder, break the ceiling, whatever term you want to call it. Because at least that's what I was doing at my previous jobs. Like I was just, getting through the day and day, and especially my last job, which I'm going to be bringing up a couple times. For those of you who don't know, I used to be back in January a assistant manager / manager trainee at a rent-to-own store. And I was there from June of last year to January of this year, and I was let go for not progressing fast enough. That is the only reason they gave me. And I was doing my best, but at the same time, I was like, this is a dead-end job, and I was just using it as a stepping stone. Take the skills I learned here and move on to the next. But that didn't end up happening, which is, why company loyalty is dead, because we're viewed as a number. Because these guys literally sent me out to run a store on the other side of South Dakota only for nothing to go wrong. Everything was fine, and I came back a week later, and basically they said, we got to let you go because you're not progressing fast enough. That's the only reason they gave. And I will never forget how my ex-boss was hovering over me as I was trying to clear my desk, because it was like this level of disdain. Like he was telling me to get the F out, like I did something terrible. And believe me, I have thought what that terrible thing is or was, and I couldn't figure it out or tell you what it was. I don't know. He just literally told me to get out, like, or hovering over me with his behavior. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't really help that you don't become loyal to a company when you are just viewed as a number. If you're not shown to be cared about as an individual, as a human being, and you feel like you're going to be shoved at the door at any minute, then yeah, you're probably not going to want to do any more effort than what's required of you. And that's the problem with a lot of these kind of corporate cultures, is that, you're not viewed as a person, as a human being. We're viewed as numbers. All they care about is, what I think is one of the theories, is they wanted to just send me out to the store to run the store for a bit, and they had made the decision a long time ago to get rid of me. But they were just waiting to do this, and then a week later, they're like, all right, get out, we're done with you. Which I find so hilarious and stupid. Like, I could go on and on about that job. But regardless, even when that happened, applying for jobs, and there's other people that are struggling with this too, specifically in the tech and sort of computer science industry now. Yeah, applying for jobs sucks. Like, we get constant turndowns because we're not meeting certain internal criteria we don't know about. Not to mention these entry jobs have the most insane requirements just to get in an entry-level job, which isn't the point of an entry-level job. It's supposed to get you into the field and get you started and working. And a lot of these companies just don't want to invest the time and effort in training somebody in the field because it costs money. So they rather find somebody that already has the skills and everything and just go with them, even if they do end up paying lower than what they would have gone originally. It's stupid. Because it automatically causes so many other problems when it comes to, oh, they can't find their perfect ideal candidate because that candidate doesn't exist, or that ideal candidate already has another job that is paying them more or treating them better than what they're willing to give. And, it doesn't also help that a lot of these, these rejection letters, which I remember, the couple of month period before I found my new job as painting, it was pretty clear AI was turning me down. Like, it was not a human. Like, sometimes the response of these emails, I'd get it the same day. It's like, that's not a human being looking at an application. That's an AI funneling through, garbage. Which I could understand that argument, I guess. Like, you're probably going to get a lot of spam and bot sort of applications now. But at the same time, like, it really should just be the bare minimum. Like, you should still listen to everybody that sends in applications and actually read through it. It's stupid. You can see why, again, Generation Z just doesn't want to put in the effort. Because when we're getting turned down constantly for not meeting certain internal quotas, there's no company loyalty. We're just viewed as a number to be shuffled out the door for the next person to come along, rinse and repeat just to fill up the bottom line. And then you have a lack of future to build up to when you see the housing market being as bad as it is, cost of living going up. It's not really hard to see why we're kind of you see these trends on TikToks, even though it is probably an exaggeration. And yeah, there are people that are like this: lazy, unwilling, incompetent, insolent, all those fun words and all that. So you can see why the sort of stereotype is being made about that. But again, other generations aren't looking at this and realizing, yeah, it's probably more than we really think. It's not just a surface level issue. It's a whole problem. And, it doesn't help also that these previous generations still think college is the way to go. And I did fall into that trap, even though I'm having family help pay for it. But regardless, not everybody else is as fortunate as I am. And you see all these people being thrown in debt, being forced into this sort of, minimum wage field, and that their degree that they got was useless and enslaving them in debt. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to see that. But it is not all doom and gloom. I want to make that very clear. It isn't all doom and gloom necessarily, because I have an article from News Nation now where Gen Z is starting to turn into the blue-collar generation, where this whole article, which I'll leave a link in the description if you want to take a look at it yourself, basically a lot of these jobs, and we're talking these are trade jobs when it comes to crane operators, elevator maintenance people, to, even construction workers, they're now starting to make closer to six figures at such a low entry kind of point. Like, we're talking people in their mid-20s are already very near or at the six-figure point by being in these trade jobs for years, and they're making way more than they would have gotten out of college. And, again, it's slowly rising as people are going into these fields because there's a huge demand for these kind of jobs. Like, trade jobs are starting to have a demand. And it's not like it's hard to get into this field, because I know some people are worried, oh, it's too late, it's not my time. Well, if you're not above 30 years old, you could still do these kind of jobs. I feel like if you're at the halfway point, it can be, 25 and older, it can start getting a little discouraging and scary, because it's like, yeah, you need to have time to build up these wages and build up these sort of, skills and all that. But it's still there. It's still a possibility. And sure, you might have to work hard at first in the beginning, which, is always going to be the case, but eventually you could be making these figures. So, maybe it's time to just skip trying to find the corporate kind of job and go a more trade route if you can. And if you're like just getting out of high school, find a trade school. Ignore what the teachers are saying about going to college. Just find a trade school. It's not worth it. I mean, just ask yourself and look this up yourself. How much is the garbage guy making right now? Just entry. And probably it varies state by state, but from what I looked at, it's around $18 to $19. Yeah, the garbage pickup guy, the one that your teacher always said is, oh, if you don't go to college, you're going to end up like that guy. Yeah, he's making more money than probably the teacher could be at certain moments, or even then, like, probably close to what they're making, and he didn't even have to do much. He just has to go pick up garbage. So there is a demand for these kind of jobs, and sure, they're not glamorous, but not only does it put food on the table, and there's lots of these trades out there, so you have to kind of just experiment and find a trade you're willing and wanting to do, instead of going into, like, college and wasting thousands of dollars for a degree that ends up becoming useless and doesn't get anywhere in life. So, like I said, maybe it's time we just skip the corporate job and just go that kind of route. And that's why I'm very grateful I'm doing painting, because it was thrown into my lap. But as of right now, I've been enjoying the field, give or take. I'm being paid a decent wage, and I can, live, all things considered. So who knows? Who knows where that could take me? Because the important thing is with these kind of jobs, even if the company you don't work with doesn't work out, you can take that skill with you and use it and apply it in a different company that's going to respect you or want to use you. Or just finish the training with that company and be certified. And then if, things are panning out better, take it in again. Go to another company that is going to value your, your skills and work ethic. But I think that's at least where the future and dreams of life and prosperity really are going to be right now. And it's kind of ironic and funny looking back at what my teachers used to say. It's like, yeah, I think you're not completely right about certain things. So anyway, I think that's all I have to say in this video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to know when I go live. We're still on the road to 300 subscribers, so we're just going to keep moving forward and keep seeing what happens. So anyway, I will see you guys with another video.